Hey everybody, welcome to Think Better with Dale Shover. Today I'm going to talk about judgment. Specifically, I'm going to give you 3 steps that you can take to become a less judgmental person and therefore to lead a happier life. Let's talk about what is judgment. Let's lay out a definition so that we know exactly what we're talking about, okay? Sometimes we make judgments that are well-informed, good judgments based on a whole lot of data and information, right? That's not the kind of judgment I'm talking about. Most of the time, if we're being honest with each other, most of the time we make what are called snap judgments, right? Where we judge somebody that we see, a thing that we see, or we judge some experience that we had based on very little information. Sometimes we judge people that we don't even know, right? Say you're out at a grocery store or you're at a restaurant, you see somebody that maybe their appearance is a little bit different from what you're used to seeing, right? Maybe it's the way that they're dressed, maybe it's their hair, could even be the color of their skin. There's something about the person's appearance that doesn't resonate with you, and so what do? You cast a judgment, right? You apply a stereotype. You decide, based on what they look like, that you know everything about their background, you know what kind of job they have, you know how much money they have, you know everything about them based only on their appearance. Also, sometimes we judge people that we do know, our family members, our loved ones, and our friends, right? We judge the things that they say, the actions that they take, the decisions that they make in their lives. We make those kinds of judgments as well. Where does judgment even come from, right? Like, why do we judge? Now, I am not an expert. I am not an evolutionary biologist. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that. So I don't know for certain, what is the origin of judgment. But if I had to venture to guess, I would say judgment probably on some level comes from evolution, right? Back in caveman days, we needed to judge dangerous situations. It could be a risk to our own lives, right? If you're out in the savannah and you see a tiger off in the distance, you had to make a judgment about that situation. If you're gathering for food, you had to know which berries were poisonous and which berries were safe to eat. So judgment is sort of it comes to us from evolution. We've been doing it since our caveman days. But the thing is, nowadays, judgments don't result in life or death situations for us for the most part anymore, right? That's just not the way our lives are today. Here's the other thing about judgment, is we're almost sort of wired naturally to put things into buckets. We love to categorize stuff, right? We like to make stuff bad or good. It's either right or it's wrong, it's left, it's right, it's up, it's down. We have this sort of wired mentality where everything has to be one way or another, right? And that just encourages us to make a judgment because we have to decide which bucket to put it in. Now, as I said before, usually when we make our judgments, we do so with limited information, right? Like the person in the grocery store that we judge based on their appearance, right? Or sometimes in the case of our, if we're judging a family member or a friend or a coworker or neighbor based on the things that they do or they say, the decisions they make. In that case, we're making decisions, without knowing, maybe we don't know what kind of day they had, right? Maybe we don't know something they were struggling with or a problem that they had. Maybe we didn't know something about their past and we made a judgment on their behaviors and decisions. Let me challenge you. Ask yourself the following question. Who am I to judge? Right? We all sort of know intuitively that we shouldn't judge people. It's even in the Bible, in the Christian Bible, if that happens to be your thing, right? We're not supposed to judge. But have you ever asked yourself, why? Why shouldn't I judge people? Why is judgment bad? Okay, so before I give you the 3 steps to be less judgmental, it probably would help a little bit to understand why is judgment bad. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons that you shouldn't judge, okay? Now, the first reason is that judgment separates us from each other, okay? When you judge somebody, you're creating a distance between yourself and them. You're sort of putting up a wall. You're creating separation where there could be togetherness. So over time, if you do enough of this judgment, you're going to start to create breakdowns in your relationships, right? Creating this distance that we're talking about, your relationships are going to start to fail. The people that are around you that you're judging, they're going to start to resent you and come away from you, right? And we all know, and especially in today's times, if anything, this world needs more togetherness, not separateness, right? We need to be building bridges to each other, not walls between each other. So reason number 2 that judgment is bad. Think about the fact that judgments are usually negative thoughts, right? Now, it might feel good in the moment to pass a judgment on someone else because you're sort of like lifting yourself up and putting them down, and so you feel good about yourself in the moment. But I promise you, subconsciously, down deep inside, you know the truth. You know that you're not really lifting yourself up and you're not really making yourself feel good. And I promise that in the long run, all of that negativity that you've built up from fake building up of yourself is going to come back and haunt you. Plus, consider this. Every time you make a judgment, it is a missed opportunity for something positive. you're using your energy, your mental bandwidth, if you will, on something negative. You're basically wasting your energy on judgment. When instead, you could use that energy on something positive. You could implant in yourself a positive thought, which in the long run is going to be healthier for your overall state of mind, right? Use the energy instead for something positive. And so the third reason that judgment is bad is that you are effectively closing your mind to opportunities. Let's say, for example, that you meet somebody new at a party, okay? And there's something about this person's appearance that you judge negatively, or maybe they said something casually that didn't resonate with you. So what you do, you write that person off. You pass a judgment, decided you didn't like them, and you write them off for the rest of the party. What if that person had something valuable? Maybe they were an expert in a topic that you're interested in, or maybe they had some wisdom to share, or maybe they had a great story that would have made you laugh your butt off. You closed yourself down to all of that because of your snap judgment. Let me quickly recap the 3 reasons that judgment is bad. First of all, it creates divisions between people. Secondly, it occupies your brain space with negativity instead of positivity. And the third reason that judgment is bad is it could lead to missed opportunities. So, let's get to the point. How do we stop judging? How do we become less judgmental? I'm going to give you 3 little steps that you can follow that are going to help you lead to a happier life with less judgment and more love for other people. So step number 1, basically, you just have to accept that you judge. You just have to own it. We all do it. Some of us do it a whole lot. The first step in becoming a less judgmental person is to accept that you are a judgmental person. But it's okay. We're all just human after all. Now, sometimes it is difficult to see our own faults, but don't judge yourself for being judgmental. It's okay. Now, as soon as you accept that you judge, then you can do something about it. Which brings me to step number 2. Catch yourself and then be curious. You have to catch yourself red-handed in the act of being judgmental, and then recognize it and then be curious about it. At first, it's going to be difficult and infrequent that you catch yourself being judgmental. But just like anything else, you have to work at it, right? It's kind of like muscle memory. You have to practice it over and over again, because not being a judgmental jerk actually takes some effort. So you have to constantly be reminding yourself to have the self-awareness that you need to catch yourself being judgmental. Eventually, it does get easier. And then when you catch yourself, ask, why did I just make that judgment? Now, sometimes you will find that the internal source of the judgment, and you may not want to hear this, but sometimes you may find the internal source of the judgment may actually be some insecurity that you have about yourself. Consider that when someone does that thing that you judge, they could just be reflecting back to you something that you need to fix about yourself. Think about that. So as you start to be in the practice of catching yourself being judgmental, you have the added benefit that it might reveal to you your own shortcomings, which you can then turn around and work on. Now that you have accepted that you are judgmental, and you're now in the practice of catching yourself doing it, step number 3 to becoming less judgmental is replace the judgment with something positive. So try to imagine what the person that you've judged, imagine what they may have gone through in their life or what they could be going through in the moment that led to whatever it was that you judged, right? Give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, replace the judgment with something positive like compassion or understanding, right? Use the mental energy for something positive, be it love, empathy, instead of that judgment, right? Let yourself remain with the positive thoughts instead of the negative thoughts, instead of that fake self-importance that you built for yourself. Choose to see the good in the person. There's a great quote from one of my favorites, Wayne Dyer. He says, "Judgments prevent us from seeing the good that lies behind appearances." Create positivity in your mind and in your heart, where there otherwise would have been something toxic and poisonous. And I promise that if you get good enough at this and you do it consistently, you will find that you are a happier person overall. Your relationships will improve, and the people around you will even start to return your positive energy. And they might even start to judge you less than they did before. I really hope that was helpful to you. I hope that there was some nugget of goodness in this video that you could use to improve your own life and to be a happier person. Thanks again for coming to my channel, Think Better with Dale Shover. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, turn on your notifications, and watch more videos. I will have more videos in the future that will explain a lot more of this stuff in detail. Thanks again.